Guys, I turned 29 in August, so I am very well into the last year of my 20s. So I felt like before I hit that milestone birthday, I wanted to share 10 financial lessons that I learned throughout my 20s. It was really hard to nail it down to 10, and I figured that this would be more fun as a chatty video. I've been watching YouTube for a very long time, but one thing I noticed with YouTube is I love to watch it passively in the morning as I get ready. I almost watch YouTube sometimes as if I'm listening to a podcast. So sometimes I'm looking at it, sometimes I'm not. Let me know what type of format you guys like. I can definitely do a lot more of these chatty style videos. I'm just afraid this may be a bit boring for you guys, but I'll try to make it as interesting as possible. I have never claimed to be a financial expert, so definitely take this all with a grain of salt. These are just things I've learned from personal experience, and I hope to share some fun stories with you guys as well. But you know, we're not doing too bad over here. I'm pretty proud of a lot of what I've learned and a lot of the habits I've learned because I was not very financially literate when I just turned 20. So I feel like I have grown a lot since then. So I hope anyone younger than me can take this as big sister advice as well. So the first thing I have here, and this may be controversial, especially to your parents, renting is not necessarily a waste of money. People see renting as throwing money in the garbage. I've heard that expression so many times. And it's always something that was ingrained in my head as well. Don't rent, never rent. We actually did rent for a couple of years, and it was honestly some of the best money spent for us. We live in Toronto, which is one of the most expensive cities in Canada, and as homeownership becomes more unaffordable, the comparison from rent to homeowning is just so different than what it was when your parents were buying a home, and it's certainly not comparable. We actually had a really good price for rent. We did it before COVID, and it was about $18.95 a month. We lived in a really central area, 1 bedroom, 700 square feet, no amenities, but it was all utilities, electrical, water, everything included, because it was a pre-war building, and I don't think they could measure that properly, to be honest, so they just did one all-inclusive price, and we would just have to pay for Wi-Fi or internet. I must say that is significantly less than what we pay for a mortgage now, month to month, and also we are still paying utilities, maintenance, everything on top of that. So if you really think about homeownership in general, actually numbers based, it's really not comparable. It's really more an investment in growing your family, having a space to call your own for a really long time, and just making memories in your home. It's not necessarily the best financial investment. There's tons of other ways to grow your money in terms of investments, but I do love our house, and it was a really smart choice for us because we plan to be here for a really long time, and also I have a super hardcore interest in home decorating and renovation, all that, and I love having this space to call my own, but that's just a more personal choice. Okay, this is number 2. Buy the real thing when you really want it, and buy quality. So there's so many things that I want and I talk about over and over and over again, and sometimes I find it so expensive, it's hard for me to justify the money, so then I'll buy the dupes to try to satisfy that need, but it still doesn't fulfill me how that certain item would, so then I just keep spending a lot of money on these random little dupes that I think are less expensive, but then when you add all that cost together, I could have bought the real thing. One thing that we invested in this year, which I think is such a good purchase. This could be in my top 10 home purchases if you guys want to see that, but it is our robot vacuum. We love our Roomba, and it was definitely a splurge purchase for us, but I was actually given a competitor product earlier on in the year, and now that I'm able to really compare the two of them, I'm so happy that we ended up buying the real deal, because I just think for our lifestyle, we have a dog, all the functions and everything, I'm just so glad that we did our research and bought the real thing, even though it's 3 times more expensive. We use it every single day, so the cost per use is definitely worth it. So freaking worth it. I love spending money on clothing staples. Sometimes something will be a little bit more expensive, but I know I'll wear it so much more if I just buy the thing I want rather than trying to find a million little things that kind of look like that thing and it's not exactly it. An example of this is I know there's a lot of Aritzia effortless pant dupes on the market right now, and I personally think that if you don't want to spend the full cost of an Aritzia effortless pant, best thing to do is find a pair of pants at the thrift store that fit already really well, and then spend the extra $20 to $30 tailoring it, because I feel like that would be the best bang for your buck instead of all these companies that are marketing as an effortless pants dupe, because I just know that they're probably not going to be made the same. But yeah, that's just like a lesson I've learned over and over and over again. If you want the real deal and you can't stop thinking about it, maybe it's time to think about how you can save for it and just pull the trigger. Next thing I have on here is buy secondhand or check secondhand first. And by this I mean just really make this a habit. I'm lucky I live in a really metropolitan area and we have a lot of thrift stores here. We have Facebook Marketplace, we have Kijiji, and I find amazing things secondhand all the freaking time. And there are certain things that I regret buying brand new because I know I could have saved more money. First one is cars. Cars depreciate in value the minute you drive them off the lot. That you hear this all the time from everybody. And if you do your due diligence or you have a friend that really knows cars, buying your car secondhand, paying that one-time price, it's definitely something to consider. I love not having a car payment and just paying for regular maintenance here and there, but I think it's amazing. And then you can pay to detail your car. It's gonna look new, it's gonna look great. Just make sure it's safe. That's the main thing. I'm on Auto Trader all the time. I love looking at used cars. I think it's fun. Okay. Next thing I think is so worth buying secondhand is designer pieces. I love designer. And I think you definitely have to do your due diligence when it comes to it. I have a whole video on this, but there's so many things that I wish I bought secondhand, like my Speedy, just because I feel like I would definitely be more open to using it because I baby this bag so much because I bought it brand new. It was for a very big milestone in my life and I bought it on my first time in Europe, and I love the story and it's very sentimental to me, but it's like a third of the price vintage and it's already worn in all the right places. I've seen so many of them on the market and I'm like, damn, should have bought that vintage. I think that would have looked really good. The other thing is Chanel. I know Chanel was using actual 18 karat gold plated hardware at a certain point, and then after a certain year they stopped doing that. So if you think about Chanel, which appreciates every year, it gets more and more expensive to buy new, you could probably buy something that is just a lot more special and a lot more better quality, even if it's the same price. I think doing your due diligence when it comes to designer and trying to buy vintage as much as possible will definitely save you money, especially when it comes to big ticket items. Another thing I like buying secondhand is trendy items because it tends to be less expensive and then it tends to be more unique. Because when I'm open to a trend, for example, ballet flats, I found a pair of Chanel ballet flats recently for $10 at Value Village. If I were to go to Zara, I would have spent at least $49 on a pair of ballet flats I probably wouldn't like later on, or maybe change my mind about. I have two pairs of beautiful ballet flats that I bought from Value Village. Yeah, one from Stuart Weitzman and then one is Chanel, and I think they're amazing. They're staples in my closet and I'll have them forever. And then the last thing I wanted to kind of dive into a little bit is buying secondhand furniture. When it comes to big pieces like your sofa, your bed frame, there's so many beautiful, unique pieces on Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, First Dibs, you name it, and it's gonna be a fraction of the price. I see things on my Facebook Marketplace all the time that are so beautiful that I wish I had room for. I love that eclectic mix of old and new. Also too, another hack for IKEA, if you're looking for something specifically from IKEA, is look at it secondhand, because a lot of the times it's been barely used because it's a lot of students or people who are very transient buying IKEA pieces. It's already assembled and you're going to get it for a little bit cheaper. The next thing is look at where most of your money is going and seeing if there are ways to make it more cost effective. So I was appalled, and I can't even share the number because I'm too embarrassed, but I was appalled at how much Dylan and I spent on takeout over COVID because I really don't like cooking. And it really kind of changed my mindset. That number just kept ringing in my head, and I knew we were going to be okay. I just knew I could be smarter about it just because I did not want to cook, and I really got into the habit of cooking more this year and actually finding systems I really do like. So example, I don't like to grocery shop. That's one of the huge hurdles for me when it comes to cooking on my own. So Instacart. This isn't sponsored, by the way, but getting groceries delivered for me, even though I'm paying a delivery fee and I may be paying a little bit of a premium, in turn, I'm still saving so much more money than if I was buying takeout a few times a week. It has kind of gotten me over this hump where I'm able to actually cook at home. The other thing that kind of falls into this category is don't buy bulk, only buy what you need. Dylan and I love Costco, but we found that we were buying bulk of food all the time. Our freezer would be super full, our fridge would be super full, but we weren't eating it as fast as it was expiring. Especially coming from an Asian household, I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. Buying in bulk makes a lot of sense, but when you're not consuming it as quickly as it can go bad, like there's no point. So it actually ended up saving us money to do a few trips to the grocery store, or ordering what we needed when we needed it. A good example of this is the Sephora sale. I love the Sephora sale, but I feel like it's a trap a little bit, because I get so tempted to buy all these different things because I feel like I'm saving so much more money than I normally would, when in fact I really only go to Sephora a few times a year to pick out a few of my favorites. But example, if I need a concealer, I'll go concealerless for a few months or a week or whatever, and then when I add to the sale, I'll buy like 5 more things on top of the concealer because I feel like I'm getting a better deal, and then I'm actually spending more money than if I were to buy the thing I wanted. Just buying what you need is so much better. Also, not buying makeup in bulk. I know it's so easy to do that too, like, oh, I'm gonna buy like 4 mascaras because I'm gonna save money doing this, but then if they all expire, like, what's the point? So, you know, you win some, you lose some. I think the Sephora sale is really, really good for big ticket items that you've been wanting for a really long time, like a hair straightener, a curler, bottles of shampoo, like things you know you're going to run out of that don't have such a small shelf life. But in terms of the small things, if your purchase is like under $50, I feel like just buy it when you need it. It's gonna save you a lot of money. Number 5 is fixing things instead of replacing them. And by that, I mean just like getting into this habit of, can I fix this before I toss it and buy a new one? So many ads are thrown at us all the time, and we just kind of forget that we can fix things, and it's actually not that hard. When it comes to furniture, when it comes to holes in your pants or whatever, sometimes it's so much more cost effective to fix it instead of feeling like you have to buy something again. Like, there was a pair of pants where I'm like, oh, these don't even really fit me. I should buy a new pair of pants. And then I realized, wait, I can change them and I can make them fit better. So I'm a really big advocate of, if there's something in your closet that is changeable and you feel like you can do it, or you want to learn how to do it, just do it, because it's gonna just be so much better than it sitting in your closet collecting dust and then you trying to buy more and more new things. I highly recommend just like learning how to care for certain things and learning how to maintain them, learning some really basic sewing skills as well as some really basic like woodworking skills, because it will save you a lot of money in the long run, and your items are just going to be like just gonna last longer. So I have a whole video that's right before this one where I show how I fix things. A really good example of this is my Ugg boots that I just did. So I had these like the longer Ugg boots, and I really wanted a pair of ultra minis, but I know that they were very trendy. I wasn't really wearing my long pair of Uggs anymore, so I took some basic sewing skills and I cropped them, saved myself $200, get to participate in this trend, and I get to bring new life to an item that I haven't worn a ton, and now I've worn them like 4 times this week. So I think that's amazing. It's a really, really good tip. It will save you money in the long run. Okay, this one is like kind of finance, but also kind of, I think it's just a good thing to know. Contracts are always meant to be negotiated. I feel like you are never too young to learn how to do this. And I feel like a lot of us are so afraid of rejection and being told no that we're so nervous to negotiate, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. I'm not the best negotiator at all, but it's something I definitely have learned. Even like if I found something damaged at the thrift store, asking if there's anything they can do and to lower the price. That's something that used to terrify me before. I know that's not contractual, but just like asking, because the worst possible scenario is your current scenario. You're just gonna get told no. So I just think, even if it's your first job or like your first big contract, self-employed, I think there's no problem kind of standing your ground and learning how to negotiate and advocate for yourself. And there are so many good resources on how to do this, especially as a woman. So I'm gonna try to find some, but at the end of the day, it really just comes down to practice. Some people are very good at this naturally and some people aren't. I'm definitely not, but it's something I'm learning more and more every day. Number 7, I wrote, everyone is on their own timeline and social media isn't real, which is ironic because this is my full-time job. But what I mean by that is you never know what's going on behind closed doors. You may see someone buy their first brand new bag and you're like, wow, I just turned that age. Why haven't I hit that? Or you see people buying a house and you feel like you need to keep up with the Joneses. But in reality, everyone is on their own journey. You have no idea how people get there. You have no idea if someone's struggling or if someone's making a ton of money and just isn't showing it. You can't really base it off of a highlight reel on social media, and it's definitely not an accurate way to compare. I think just making personal goals for yourself, having a vision board, thinking about things you want to do, and making financial goals really exciting for yourself is so much more the way to do it, instead of looking at other people being like, oh my gosh, like for me personally, it's like everyone's turning 30. Like, should I be doing this, and this? Should I be making this much money? I think if you're comparing yourself, you're almost kind of doing it wrong instead of really sitting down and thinking about, okay, what do I want? Why is this important to me? And how am I going to get there? Social media can definitely be motivating, but at the same time, it can be so discouraging because you're constantly comparing yourself. But at the end of the day, you don't know what's happening behind closed doors. So I highly recommend just really focusing on you. Also too, people want to share their great moments. A lot of people want to share like their huge achievements on social media. And I love that because I love cheering people on, but not everyone's necessarily going to show all the bad times. And like, obviously those can be kept private. Like obviously not opposed to that. I definitely have had my fair share, but just remember there's so much more to every single story. Next one. Okay, this one's funny because I don't know if everyone feels this way, so please let me know. But 8 is when you can afford it, pay for movers. I have moved a handful of times in my life, and doing it by yourself in comparison to shelling out that extra few $100s to hire a moving company has been life-changing. We paid for movers to move into our house here, and that was the most seamless move. I don't even remember how much money we spent on it. I know it was, because we were in a house, it was definitely like over 500, less than 1,000. I can't exactly remember the number, but it was well worth it because they were done in a day. And if you think about it, if you have to take unpaid days off or even paid days off, it is sometimes a bit more cost effective to pay for movers, get it done for one day, than taking like 2 days off and trying to get it done and then stressing out, spending your whole weekend also doing it. I personally find moving really stressful. I know it's a very shared experience. So if you can afford it and budget into your move, pay for movers, especially if you're 25 and up and you have chronic back issues. Definitely do that because it will save you so much time. And that can obviously be a metaphor for so many other things, but I think moving, especially in your 20s, it's really worth it. Like really worth it, because you're still gonna have to do so much work after too. Like you're gonna have to organize your stuff, go through your things, declutter everything, organize your move, you know, and you're still gonna be moving your valuable items too. Sometimes it's just nice to delegate it, especially if you're not into it. Number 9 is to measure, declutter, and organize. I think we all fall into this trap, especially if you're overly excited for your apartment and you're trying to find organization boxes, you're trying to fit a dresser, you're trying to buy a sofa. We get too lazy to measure. That's like the biggest financial mistake, honestly, you can make. It's gonna give you so much grief later when you move your sofa in and it doesn't fit in the corner that you kind of like visually imagined it to fit in. If you just go through your new apartment, new place, your drawers in your makeup storage, decide like what you want in each drawer, just like really taking that extra hour to do all those things, you're gonna save so much money because you're not gonna have to constantly buy things and then just pray that it's gonna fit in that drawer, and then you'll have all this extra crap. Measure, especially when it comes to furniture. That's such a big costly mistake. I've done it. I know tons of people who've done it. Don't do it if you can. Measure. It's really not that hard. Especially now with your iPhone, you can visually measure. You can literally like use the measure app and just like do this. It's really not that bad. I don't know. I feel like everyone's adverse to measuring, including myself, and it's so much better to do it. The next thing is declutter and organize. This is like kind of a weird example, but fall into this trap where I buy a roll of tape every time I go to the dollar store because I can never find my roll of tape or I can never find a pair of scissors. And that's before I organize all of my crafts, all of my stuff. And you know what I found? I found like 8 rolls of tape in my basement because I just kept forgetting what we had. So if you like organize things properly, you know your inventory of your place, you're not gonna end up buying repeats of things constantly because you don't know where they are and you kind of forgot that you bought it. I feel like those are 2 things that people are always trying to look for, tape and scissors, but I haven't had to buy tape in a while because I have so many backups now. And I know that I'm not going to be constantly spending money on this. I know people have that, like, you know, like people talk about Starbucks and coffee and like, and how it adds up, but people never really talk about this. And I feel like this, like, and not being organized at home and not knowing your inventory of certain household items, this actually is far more costly than compared to buying your everyday coffee. Because at least with your everyday coffee, you're consuming it and yeah, it can add up. But if you're disorganized, that is so much more expensive. The other example of this and knowing what you have is sometimes I is keeping up with your laundry. I know that sounds really silly, but I find that when I'm really low on certain clothes, or I'm really low on like if I just haven't done my laundry in a while, you kind of forget how much of everything you actually have. So you can either prevent this by obviously doing a more capsule wardrobe, which I've done tons of videos about, or you can just keep up with your laundry and be an organized person. And you will find that you have so many things in your closet, and when you're picking up that gray sweater from Aritzia that you love, you'll realize, wait, I have 5 gray sweaters at home and maybe I don't need this one. Or you can sell some that you don't wear and then get this one to replace it. But just like understanding. And the last one I have is, it's a little bit corny, but I personally think from the almost 10 years of my 20s is the best thing to invest in financially is yourself. Your 20s is a time to learn, it's a time to grow, it's a time to make mistakes. Like nobody's perfect, and it's a time to take risks, especially if you have the privilege to and you don't have a ton of financial responsibility. It's a time to really try a bunch of things. Travel, like spend money on that trip if you can, move into your first apartment. Like don't be afraid of doing those things if you are able to make it work for yourself. I know not everybody is necessarily in that position, but I feel like your 20s is your time to invest in yourself, learn your independence, and really just kind of like take control of your life. Because I feel like as like pretty much a brand new adult, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. There's so many things I learned, and the best thing I've ever invested in is myself, and that's how I got here. And I'm so lucky and I feel so grateful that I've been able to take on these opportunities, but without spending money on my therapist, which I think is also a really good financial thing to do, my health, my experiences and everything, I would not be the person I am now. So I know that's kind of corny, but don't feel limited by I guess like all the things that are out there for you, and I know it's really easy to feel stuck, especially in times like this where things are getting really expensive. The cost of living is so crazy, but I hope that like even if it's just, you know, like buying a book or buying your favorite tea and doing those small things for yourself that are going to make you feel just a little bit better, a little bit more organized, and just happier in general. At the end of the day, I think like money, and the reason why I like to make money and I feel motivated by that, is to just have more control over how I want my life to be in the ways that I can do it, and just to provide me more opportunities. If I can do that by investing in myself and to make myself like happier, and like, you know, like why not do it? So I hope that made sense. I don't really do a lot of these rambly videos, but yeah, those are my 10 financial lessons I've learned in my 20s thus far. We still have a few more months to go. If there's anything else, I will update you guys. If you guys like these little kind of like finance lessons or just like big girl lessons in general, please let me know. I'm so happy to sit down and chat with you guys, and there will be so much more fashion stuff to come. Trust me. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye guys.